Hello friends, welcome back. And we are talking about strengthening the company's position with the help of mergers, acquisitions and takeovers. And we are trying to put up a composite picture around these kind of things. We would now be moving towards strategic alliances and partnerships, but before that we would try to converge that thought process which we were developing around acquisitions, wherein we talked about reasons for acquisitions and we will slightly elaborate those, and then we would be going for, let us say, why it may not work, and then we would be moving towards strategic alliances and partnerships, and then strategies in terms of internationalization, going across the boundaries. And you see, we are talking about mergers, acquisitions and takeovers, wherein internationalization or strategies around those kind of things, or some I would not say pure legal elements, but definitely some important terminology would be presented and discussed here. For example, exports, licenses and those kind of things, and franchisee arrangements and so on, and let us see. So, reasons for acquisitions I elaborated, and these are broadly 7 reasons which we have talked about. And when we talk about increased market power, it exists when a firm is able to sell its goods or services above competitive levels, or when the cost of its primary or support activities are lower than those of competitors, and that is how you focus upon market power. You see, to increase their market power, firms often use horizontal, vertical and related acquisitions to expand the market as such, to gain the larger market sphere, to kill the competition. Yes, beating the competition is the perspective which we are pursuing here. Overcoming entry barriers are also there. See, so barriers to entry are factors associated with the market or with the firms currently operating in it, which increase the expense and difficulty faced by new ventures trying to enter the particular market and so on. So, there also you go for acquisition, and we have talked about that very briefly as far as the situation goes. And in addition, acquisitions are commonly used method to overcome barriers to enter international markets as such, wherein you are expanding your geographic boundaries and so on, and there are the factor is scalability. The key word is scalability. Cost of new product development, I talked about that very briefly, and increased speed to the market. I want to go ahead of everyone, and this way I may take a longer time and so on. So, developing new products internally and successfully introducing them into the marketplace often requires significant investment of a firm's resources, including time, making it difficult to quickly earn a profitable return and so on. Then cost of new product development, increased speed to the market also is related to acquisition activities also extensive throughout the pharmaceutical industry, for example, and this might elaborate the preceding kind of a point which I made in terms of as far as cost and increased speed, where firms frequently use acquisitions to enter markets quickly to overcome the high cost of developing products and so on, because their molecule development takes a longer time. Pharmaceutical product development takes slightly longer time, then it has to be tested and it has to go through different kinds of processes at the end of the day. So, an example is that Gilead Sciences emerged as a leader in drugs that treat AIDS, one of the world's leading causes of death, which has always been there that way. However, with its $2.5 billion acquisition of Myogen Incorporated, a smaller biotech company, and one other acquisition, the company has quickly been able to diversify its pipeline into hypertension, that is high blood pressure, as well as drugs that treat other respiratory and other heart diseases, all lines of development with high potential demand and growth. This example is no way is related to subscription of any kind of medicine or promoting any organization for that matter. It is just an example taken from a standard textbook. Now, then next is lower risk compared to developing new products. Because the outcomes of an acquisition can be estimated more easily and accurately than the outcomes of an internal product development process, managers may view acquisitions as lowering risk. Authors have pointed this element of exact measurement, but for how long it would work, that may not be so much measured and so easily, and that again is a question mark. So, at this moment the direct cost in terms of acquisition is measured, the market size can be measured, but can we measure the longevity of this arrangement? That definitely is a question mark. So, increased diversification, wherein acquisitions are also used to diversify firms based on experience and the insights resulting from it. Firms typically find it easier to develop and introduce new products in markets currently served by the firm. And then reshaping the firm's competitive scope, we have talked about that. The intensity of competitive rivalry in an industry characteristic that affects the firm's profitability. To reduce negative effect of an intense rivalry on their financial performance, firms may use acquisitions to lessen their dependence on one or more product or market and so on. And then learning and developing new capabilities, that is quite explicit, wherein so again from pharmaceutical company examples. So, a number of large pharmaceutical firms are acquiring the ability to create large molecule drugs, also known as biological drugs, by buying biotechnology firms. There are some problems in acquisitions success, and I have been time and again pointing out that in terms of, if you will go into the statistics, if you will go into the details, you would realize. But what are those problems? Definitely there is an integration difficulty, then there is an inadequate evaluation of the target. You are unable to analyze the target in detail. Target, well, this is the term which we have to use, but are we targeting organizations to be acquired? I just have to point out in front of you that these are the terms which take us towards different kind of a thought process in terms of whatever we have been pursuing up till now in terms of strategic orientation. But this is about competition, large or extraordinary debt, inability to achieve synergy, as far as how would it work as far as the situation goes. So, too much of diversification, you might not be able to control that. Managers overly focused on acquisitions, many times they are focused on acquisitions because and that way you might not be able to develop your own capabilities at the end of the day, and then you become too large. So, these are the problems, and I would be giving you some examples. I would not be focusing too much on as far as the elements of these points, which are quite self-explanatory in terms of, for example, integration difficulties, how those organizations would be able to work together in terms of resolving different kinds of cultural aspects if you are going for cross-border mergers and acquisitions, and there are several examples and stories which are there. But look at this, this example might be explicit. When UPS acquired mailboxes etc., a retail shipping chain, it seemed like a beneficial merger. This is a case study taken from HIT Ireland Hoskisson, Strategic Management Concepts and Cases. So, however, most of the mailbox etc. outlets were owned by franchisees who lost the ability to work with other carriers like FedEx after the merger. UPS also built its own shipping stores near franchisee outlets, reducing their competitiveness. A clash emerged between the entrepreneurial culture of mailboxes franchisees and UPS's efficiency focused corporate approach. Moreover, mailboxes etc. prioritized retail traffic while UPS focused on wholesale logistics. Although most franchisees rebranded under UPS, some formed an owners group and even sued UPS over unfavorable contract terms, which is written in the text as it is. There can be further details which you may be able to find out, but this is how wherein integration difficulties are there. Then there is inadequate evaluation of target, which we have briefly talked about. Some inability to achieve synergy, and synergy is working together. I told you earlier that we are competitors. Today we are there in the office to kill the competition, to beat the competition. And imagine there are two buildings on the two sides of the road. This side is my office, that side is your office, and today we are there in our offices to actually beat. We are talking to the customers and retailer to beat each other, and the other day we have merged. What are we going to tell the retailers and customers? Probably there is a situation. So, managers overly focused on acquisitions. Many times, as I said, capability development is at the back seat somehow. And you see, there is an example here. Liz Claiborne Incorporated serves as a case of excessive focus on acquisitions. This is again taken from HIT Ireland and Hoskisson. The company expanded from 16 to 36 brands, with sales soaring from $800 million to approximately $5 billion. However, this growth strategy faced challenges as industry dynamics shifted. Department store consolidations reduced space for brands, while the rise of specialty stores like Koch further squeezed opportunities. In response, CEO William McComb had to divest up to 16 brands and prioritize those with greater potential. Now let us go towards strategic alliances and partnerships. Strategically coming together. What does that mean? That you do something for me, I do something for you, and let us go together while competing with each other. Yes, it sounds like that. Let us see. Oh yes. No, no, no. Coke is not a competitor of McDonald's, but McDonald's and Coca-Cola are in strategic alliance and partnership. Have you ever wondered why McDonald's exclusively serves Coca-Cola and does not offer any other carbonated beverage? So, McDonald's and Coca-Cola have a long-standing strategic alliance where Coca-Cola is the exclusive provider of beverages in McDonald's restaurants worldwide. This partnership ensures consistency in quality of beverages served at McDonald's locations and strengthens the brand identity of both companies. There are several such kinds of arrangements. Uber and Spotify. You sit in a Uber, you listen to Spotify. Oh, that's a good arrangement, that's a great arrangement, and I am personally a fan of Spotify. It's my personal choice. And then a strategic alliance is a formal agreement between two or more separate companies in which they agree to work collaboratively towards some strategically relevant objective. Strategically relevant objective. So, that is the perspective of as far as the whole scenario goes. So, what is strategically relevant objective? Which is relevant for the nearest most goals and objectives. But again, you see, always there is a question, and as a student strategy you must think about that, that objectives are subject to your mission. So, somehow there is an environmental vulnerability, or somehow we could not decipher the mission into crystal objectives. Strategic alliance may not be wrong all the time. It is actually right many a times. But the point is that somehow when we are talking of strategic relevance, can we think in terms of making the competition irrelevant altogether through our innovation and going for value innovation? Much before that we are needed to go for strategic alliances. Should we be actually going for alliance? Because somehow when we are going for alliance, for example, let us say we go for a technology exchange in terms of developing some engines, and then those same kinds of engines are being used by two different vehicle manufacturers. Or let us say someone would be manufacturing cars, for example, I would be manufacturing cars for you and myself, and we would be branding them as different vehicles, same vehicles but still different vehicles through our own outlets. Is it complicating the situation? Basically, can't say. Is it good for the customers? Would we be able to position those differently? Would we be able to justify that we are marketing it with two different kinds of names, the same vehicle at the end of the day? Shouldn't we be very open in terms of saying that this is also the same vehicle, this is also the same vehicle, I am marketing it with my own name, and this vehicle is being marketed by the actual manufacturer who is manufacturing for me as well, but after sales I am taking the guarantee of the support, and I am giving you that yes, I am behind that, but I am not doing it. Should we be doing that? But at the end of the day, many strategic alliances we feel that then should we be announcing in front of the customers that we are getting manufactured, our vehicles manufactured by someone who is manufacturing for so many, although it does not make a difference. They have the capacity, we go to them, we give them our specifications, they manufacture. How does it matters basically? But are we saying that we are the manufacturers of this vehicle? Are we saying that? Somehow, you see, there are so many areas wherein at the end of the day, because we want long term customer loyalty and long term growth and long term organizational growth and organizational life cycle to persist, longevity, we should be having a lot of transparency. That is the mainstay in terms of as far as strategic growth goes. Typically, they involve shared financial responsibility, joint contribution of resources and capabilities, shared risk, shared control, and mutual dependence. Makes sense all the way. They may be characterized by cooperative marketing, sales or distribution, joint production, that is what I was talking about, design collaboration, or projects to jointly develop new technologies or products. But to what extent customers should be aware of this? Isn't it related to transparency and long term customer retention? Isn't it all about retaining the customer for a long time so that you can be there forever? If it is not like that, then are we thinking in terms of strategy till our objectives are achieved? Are we actually doing that? And if we are doing that, then how far we are away from our vision, and then shouldn't we be thinking in terms of blue ocean and different kinds of strategic landscapes? Whenever we are thinking in terms of strengthening our competitive position, then such kind of questions always come to fore. How to avoid those questions? By not predicting too much, but being there in terms of our strategic pathway goes. I will be talking about these kind of things in due course of time continuously. So, an alliance becomes strategic as opposed to just a convenient business arrangement when it serves any of the following purposes. It facilitates achievement of an important business objective like lowering costs or delivering more value to customers in the form of better quality, added features and greater durability. It helps build, strengthen or sustain a core competence or competitive advantage. When you are together, definitely the competence shifts from that side to that side, but is it your core competence? That again, you see this, and academically we should be talking about both the sides parallelly. That is our responsibility. That is the way we should be understanding this. It helps remedy an important resource deficiency and competitive weakness. It helps defend against a competitive threat or mitigates a significant risk to a company's business. It increases bargaining power over suppliers or buyers. It helps open up important new market opportunities. It speeds the development of new technologies and or product innovation. But when we say important new market opportunities, couldn't it be done through Blue Ocean, at large? Couldn't we be doing that all together since the beginning? Companies that have formed a host of alliances need to manage their alliances like a portfolio. The best alliances are highly selective, focusing on particular value chain activities, and that is where developing value chains strategically, managing value chains also encompasses strategically strengthening value chains, and on obtaining a specific competitive benefit, they enable a firm to build on its strengths and to learn. Now, let us go for crafting strategies for international markets. You see, we are strengthening our situation, we are expanding, we have genuinely looking, we have been looking for geographical growth and span. We have to move across territories, and since the beginning of last session and including this session, I have been talking about cross-border mergers and acquisitions and strategic alliances. So, when we talk of cross-border, this kind of a term, so then there are specific strategic steps which we have to think about in terms of crossing the border, international markets. Let us see what kind of situation it has. So, why companies decide to enter foreign markets? Whenever we are talking about mergers and acquisitions, if it is cross border, then definitely there are reasons similar to mergers and acquisitions, but specifically when we are thinking in terms of geographical expansion and then we decide to go for merger acquisition or without that. So, genuinely when we are crossing the border to enter foreign markets. So, to gain access to new customers, obvious reasons are there, to achieve lower costs through economies of scale, experience and increased purchasing power, to gain access to low cost inputs of production, to further exploit its core competencies, to gain access to resources and capabilities located in foreign markets. Many times production related capabilities, many times market related capabilities, many a times your existing market is not performing so well and the target customer is not, it's moving, shifting and you are moving towards the other space and so on, and probably the other market has a larger potential in terms of development of that market's buying capacity and buying power, where you can go and definitely earn profits for yourself and so on. So, once a company decides to expand beyond its domestic borders, it seeks out the most effective means to enter foreign markets. There are 5 primary strategic options for doing so. One is export, the other is licensing, franchising, foreign subsidiary and joint venture. I will be talking about this briefly one by one and joint venture specifically. So, export related strategic steps. Using domestic plants as a production base for exporting goods to foreign markets is an excellent initial strategy for pursuing international sales. You may say that it is initial, but now there are several elements which may not make it a choice in terms of strategic choices. Because you see, markets are expanding too fast. Companies are coming from all the sides as far as the whole situation is, and since the globalization has become a reality, so there are so many things which are actually making companies to move into the other markets with all their expertise, their plants and their production facilities and so on. So, it is a conservative way to test the international waters. Many a times companies, they start doing that. The amount of capital needed to begin exporting is often minimal. Existing production capacity may well be sufficient to make goods for export. With an export based entry strategy, a manufacturer can limit its involvement in foreign markets by contracting with foreign wholesalers experienced in importing to handle the entire distribution marketing function in their countries or regions of the world. I am sending you things, you just sell it as far as you do. You best utilize those in terms of developing the market. So, ITC Limited, a diversified conglomerate with interests in fast moving consumer goods, hospitality, paper boards, agribusiness. I have been using this example many a times, and they export their brands such as Ashirwad, Sunfeast and Bingo to various countries across the globe, and it's happy moment for India. So, and then export strategy is vulnerable when manufacturing costs in the home country are substantially higher than in foreign countries where rivals have plants. Yes, then it makes sense that you should go there and manufacture. The costs of shipping the product to distant foreign markets are relatively high. Adverse shifts occur in currency exchange rates. Importing countries impose tariffs or erect other trade barriers. Then there is licensing, and licensing as an entry strategy makes sense when a firm with valuable technical know-how, an appealing brand or a unique patented product has neither the international organizational capability nor the resources to enter the foreign market. So, you license someone to do that. Licensing also has the advantage of avoiding the risk of committing resources to other country markets that are unfamiliar, politically volatile many a times, economically unstable or otherwise risky. So, you extend your license, that you do it on my behalf as far as I license you to do that. So, by licensing the technology, trademark or production rights to foreign based firms, the firm can generate income from royalties while shifting the cost and risk of entering foreign markets to the licensee. The big disadvantage of licensing is the risk of providing valuable technical know-how to foreign companies and thereby losing some degree of control. Although you have IP control and the partners, the licensees are honest people, but definitely there is a fear of losing the control in terms of the know-how goes. Franchising. While licensing works well for manufacturers and owners of proprietary technology, franchising is often better suited to international expansion efforts of service and retailing enterprises. And you see, here the authors have categorized it for us: service and retailing enterprises. So, McDonald's and Yum Brands is the parent company for Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell and Bing Street, have all used franchising to build a presence in foreign markets. Franchising has many of the same advantages as licensing. The franchisee bears most of the cost and risk of establishing foreign locations. A franchisor has to expend only the resources to recruit, train, support and monitor franchisees. You give a structure wherein you are being represented, you are there, but in the form of a franchise. So, everything belongs to you in terms of the structure. For example, you go to a McDonald's store, it is McDonald's stores, but managed through their franchisees. The problem a franchisor faces is maintaining quality control. If you do not have a very intense regular relationship, then it would be slightly difficult. Foreign franchisees do not always exhibit strong commitment to consistency and standardization, especially when the local culture does not stress the same kinds of quality concerns. If customer is not that aware of that what McDonald's should be offering at the end of the day, probably, although it is not there in the case of McDonald's or Pizza Hut, they have been maintaining that kind of a quality standard which has been maintained internationally by them. Definitely it is there, and it is evident to us because, and in today's world wherein people are traveling too much from this side to that side, it is very easy to be found out that where the quality difference is. You see how McDonald's in different parts of the world they are doing and how they are doing in India, and happy to note that quality standards are equal. But again, many times this is a situation. Foreign subsidiary strategies. While exporting, licensing and franchising rely upon the resources and capabilities of allies to deliver goods or services to buyers in international markets, companies pursuing international expansion may elect to take responsibility for the performance of all essential value chain activities. You see, a subsidiary business that is established by setting up the entire operation from the ground up, that is what we call greenfield venture. Entering a new foreign country via greenfield venture makes sense when a company already operates in a number of countries, has experience in establishing new subsidiaries and overseeing their operations, and has a sufficiently large pool of resources and capabilities to rapidly equip a new subsidiary with the personnel and competencies it needs to compete successfully and profitably. And examples: late 1950s, Toyota is a Japanese automaker, recognized the potential of American automotive market and sought to establish a presence there. In 1984, Toyota broke ground on its first US manufacturing plant in Georgetown, Kentucky, and the story goes on. And here comes alliances and joint venture strategies. A special type of strategic alliance involving ownership ties is the joint venture, jointly coming together. India saw several kinds of joint ventures in the earliest part of when liberalization and globalization was reached to India, it came to India. So, a joint venture entails forming a new corporate entity that is jointly owned by two or more companies that agree to share in the revenues, expenses and control of the newly formed entity. Since joint ventures involve setting up a mutually owned business, they tend to be more durable but also riskier than other arrangements. Synergy definitely becomes a question. Strategic alliances, joint ventures and other cooperative agreements with foreign companies are a widely used means of entering foreign market. A company can benefit immensely from a foreign partner's familiarity with local government regulations, its knowledge of the buying habits and product preferences of consumers, its distribution channel relationships and so on. Do I remind you of Hero and Honda? Another reason for cross-border alliance is to capture economies of scale in production or marketing. By joining forces in producing components, assembling models and marketing their products, companies can realize cost savings not achievable with their own small volumes. Another reason for cross-border alliance is learning and added expertise that comes from performing joint research, sharing technological know-how, studying one another's manufacturing methods, understanding how to tailor sales, marketing approaches to fit local cultures and traditions. And you see, here I come, Hero, Honda, TVS Suzuki, Maruti Suzuki, Escorts Yamaha, several wonderful joint ventures India has seen. And I just mentioned in my last session that kind of a joint venture, when they went, when they demerged or they became separate, they became successful. And that was the approach they took since the beginning. And they grew the complete two-wheeler market strategically. And that is what strategy is all about. So, either the competitive perspective should help in growing the market, or otherwise we should be looking at a blue ocean route. Choice is ours. Perspective is reaching to the mission through objectives and goals. I would be catching up back with you with lots of insights, especially in terms of corporate governance now onwards. Till then, goodbye.